Hey, welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the Jump In Podcast with me, your host, John Thomas. And, I'm, as always, excited to be here and share, what's been going on, what's new, and what's happening now. And if you know anything I've shared in the past, being a Philadelphia fan, it's just been an incredible time to celebrate and to recognize the efforts of our Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. But as with everything, you know, what can I tell you? The dust is settled and the celebrations have ended. And now, if you're a fan like me, we're just, basking in the glory of being a championship city and all that comes with it, especially the bragging rights. And I'm looking forward to using those over the course of this year with all those people I know are fans of other cities who hated on our Philadelphia Eagles. So get ready. But, if you're in Philadelphia or you're from Philadelphia and experienced our recent parade, you can be especially proud of how it was like estimated 1.7 million fans that gathered throughout the streets of our city with respect and rapport present for what we were there to celebrate and memorialize, which was the victory that our team brought home in that Lombardi Championship trophy. And it got me to really think about, okay, so if we can create that, for our sports teams, man, wouldn't it be great if we could have, respect and rapport show up in our everyday life, in our families, in our communities, in our workplace, right? So it got me to thinking, well, why don't I just make that this week's topic for discussion? And so again, if you know um, how to create an environment where respect and rapport is present in every aspect of life, then you will be able to put it into existence wherever you are and with whoever you're surrounded by. But you got to know the rules of the game. And just like every game, there are rules in every game of life. And, you got to know those rules and when to apply them. And when it comes to respect and rapport, especially respect, there are three. So, what are they? The three respect rules are simple, right? First one is respect yourself. No one's going to respect you or anything you do or anything you say unless you respect yourself first. The second is to respect others. And again, the third is respect property. And nowhere else was that present than, like I said, you had a commitment from all those fans that gathered to bring those three rules to bear. It took something. And I'm excited that, although there were, some minor incidences, that occurred, for the most part, those three rules were there, were present, and everybody, had a great time because they were respecting themselves, they respected others, and they respected the property. So if you can follow these simple rules and then just help others do the same, then you've gone a long way to creating a respectful environment. Now, there are four key ideals that apply to respect. Now, the first key ideal is the golden rule. And you learned this growing up, right? If you had parents like mine, treat others the way you want to be treated. Be polite and courteous. Respect the rights and freedoms of others. Respect the property of others. And take care of the things that you borrow. And don't take things without asking permission first. The second key ideal is nonviolence. Learning how to solve disagreements peacefully without violence. Deal with anger, peacefully. Don't use physical force to show anger or to get what you want. The third key is tolerance and acceptance. And what is tolerance and acceptance really about? Nothing short of just respecting others who are different from you and listen to the viewpoint of others and try to understand things from their perspective. Don't judge people by their outside appearances. Rather, look for their character and what they display and demonstrate. And the fourth key ideal is courtesy. Use good manners. Be polite and courteous to everyone. And do not hurt others by embarrassing them or making a point of putting them down or insulting them. You don't want to use bad or foul language or inappropriate language with people. And so again, putting those four key ideals forefront in your mind will help go a long way, like I said, to creating an environment where respect is present. So you want to understand, what it looks like when you've already created a respectful environment. So what is a respectful environment? Well, respectful environment creates a sense of belonging and a safe place for people to engage in dialogue, to learn, and to grow. They support each of us to realize our full potential. Now, what does a respectful environment look like again? A respectful environment is one where all individuals are treated fairly. Difference is acknowledged and valued. Communication is open and civil. Conflict is addressed early, and there is culture of empowerment and cooperation present. Now, there are 5 ways that you and others can learn to show respect. The 5 ways that to show respect are and include: number 1, actively listening to others, acknowledging their opinions, using, like I said, polite language, respecting personal space, and showing empathy by considering their perspective when you disagree. Now, I'll give you examples of what I mean by each. So when it comes to active listening, what does that look like? Well, pay full attention when someone's speaking to you without interrupting, and demonstrate that you have an understanding through your verbal and nonverbal cues. An example of acknowledging, right, opinions, you want to show that you value someone's opinion or their viewpoint, even if you disagree. How you do that is just by summarizing their ideals and responding thoughtfully. I look for ways to, recreate people's communication so they know that they've been heard by me. It's not parroting, it's recreating, it's giving them the sense that I got what their opinions or their perspective is. And then I'll go and I'll share my perspective or my thoughts on the subject, even if I disagree. And you go a long way with this other one, which is polite language. This may seem like common sense, but common sense is not common to everyone. So using the word please and thank you, and avoid using offensive or condescending languages or tones. Respecting personal space. You want to give people the physical room and avoid making them feel uncomfortable by being too close or overly close. Again, there are times, especially like in that parade, there was not a lot of room for people to stand. You were, shoulder to shoulder with people. But even in that, there are, ways that you can turn, or just, being considerate of their personal spaces when you're trying to talk, or you're, putting your camera up in the sky, knowing that there are people behind you and being present to them, or there are people in front of you and being present to them helps to go a long way. And then empathy, an example, right? You want to try to understand someone's feelings and perspective, even if you haven't experienced the same situation. You can feel what it might be like for people. You may have never gone through that experience, but you can just empathize with what they're actually dealing with. And, again, people, they'll share with you what they're dealing with and what matters to them if they know that you care. And there's no more important place to demonstrate these examples than with our children. And some of the ways that you can use to model respect with children specifically is you want to listen to them. And how you listen, you should make eye contact when your kid is talking to you. You know, knock before entering your child's room, especially if the door is closed. They can't, I know I grew up in a time where my mom was very clear there are no locked doors, and, she even removed doors from our rooms, because she felt like there's no such thing as privacy. But, I will tell you that there is a lot that can be gained with your children in teaching and modeling these type of behaviors if you knock before you go in and giving them that respect. Use, language that's appropriate and words in a tone of voice that would be acceptable to you if your child was talking to you. So, if you want your children to, do what you do, then share, the kind of language that you would want them to be sharing with you when they're talking to you. Another is value your child's need for fun and time with their friends. My daughter loves to talk with her friends. It's crazy because I see them, on Saturdays, but I see them every day during the week because I take them to school. But during their Saturdays, they're on phone or they're on FaceTime, or they're having a good time just talking with each other and playing games with them. And, I know that makes a difference in how they, get up to what they need to get up to during the week. They have a very busy schedule filled with, activities, with sports, with, hobbies and other things. They're into music. So we have them practicing a lot. We have them doing a lot of studying. And so I know valuing their time with their friends is a good opportunity for them to let loose and relax a little bit. So I make it available for them, especially when they're in my place. And then the other is give your child space to have their own opinions and preferences. A lot of times parents will try to impose their own will on their children, and, in a lot of cases, try to live their life vicariously through their children, and again, that doesn't give them a lot of freedom. And so you want to make sure that you're giving your child the space to have their own opinions and their own preferences for what they want to do. And again, within reason, and there are boundaries to everything. And then another is to value your child's need for privacy. I already talked about that. And then, again, I'm not saying that, you want to just have a hands-off approach, because again, that's neglect, right? But there is a need to value your child, to give them some privacy for the things that they need to deal with. And ask before using or borrow something of theirs. Don't just take it that you bought it, it's yours, or, taking an approach that everything in the house is mine, you pay the bills. And there's a lot of things that people say to their kids that, creates an animosity as they grow up. So, again, if it's something that you gave to them freely and it's their gift or something that they own or they purchased on their own with their own money, then you want to be someone to ask before using it or borrowing it. And if your child is struggling and is not at risk of hurting themselves, ask if they want help before rushing in to do it or fix it or for them. We're a demonstration of developing leaders around us. And you want to, again, make sure that you're giving your children every opportunity to solve problems, to be independent, and before you go in and try to save the day or try to fix it for them. Another thing you can do is call your child, what they wish to be called. What does that mean? Well, there are children that, prefer their full names to be used versus nicknames, right? My son, Johnny, I call him Johnny. He's given us permission to use that as his nickname. But I'll tell you, he prefers his full name to be used, Jonathan. And, at first I kind of was taken back because I didn't, I like his nickname. It's a term of endearment. It brings up so many great memories with him, right? But as I listen to him and I watch him, even with his friends, they call him Jonathan, or they call him, there more than one Jonathan in his class. So he became Jonathan S., right? It was his last name. And, I got to hear that and I got to see that in his peer group. So, of course, I also, took it upon myself and asked for permission to call him by his nickname. But at the same token, when he's being introduced to others, he likes his full name to be used. And so, who am I to not give him that respect and that consideration? So I just invite you, if you're parents, and you do have, nicknames or names you call your children, pet names in your house, be respectful of what their wishes are to and how they wish to be addressed. As they get older, even me, I remember everybody used to call me John, right? Now I share that in a public setting. I've given it, but guess what? After I turned a certain age, I told my mother and everybody else it's only one John. Because again, that's how I wanted to be known. That's what my name was. And it was, it was a little bit, it made me feel like they were treating me like a child and using that pet name for me. So I had to train my parents and other people in my family to eliminate that last name, or that second name that they were using with me. And even to this day, it still has a little bit of a twinge, right? So, like I said, make sure that you're calling your child whatever they wish to be called, and resist using the names or nicknames that they feel are embarrassing or that they have outgrown. Let your child answer questions for themselves. If you want your child to be expressive with others and grow up to be someone that has their own voice, then when they're being asked questions, let them answer for themselves, especially in public with other people. So now that we talked about how, a little bit about the rules and what it takes to create respect, let's move on to the second point of this topic, which is rapport. And, respect is separate from rapport. And so there are 4 principles of rapport. So what are they? Well, rapport building involves the 4 key principles of empathy, authenticity, similarity, and shared experience. And the 3 C's, as I call them, of rapport-based communication are, really, like I said, there's connection, there's commonality, and there's clues. Now, connecting is the skill of getting on the same wavelength as the person you're trying to communicate with. And commonality involves finding, common ground, fostering a sense of familiarity and connection with the people. And then, clues. People will give you clues of, what they, will bring them together, right? And again, it's very simple. If you see someone wearing, an Eagles green or jersey or hat, you have something in common. They gave you that clue, right? So that's a way that you can build rapport just based on your fandom. And again, that's just one example. Now, to create an environment of respect and rapport, you want to focus on actively listening to others, learning individual names, showing genuine interest in their experiences, using respectful communication, being mindful of body language, and fostering a sense of inclusivity by valuing diversity and individual perspectives. Essentially, treating everyone with kindness, courtesy, and consideration to build positive connections. Now, there are key elements to building respect and rapport. So you want to know your individuals. Take the time to learn people's names, what their interests are, and their backgrounds of those that you interact with to show genuine care and understanding. People don't care what you know unless they know that you care. So when you learn those things about them, that's a big, big, big step in building rapport. Active listening. Pay close attention to what others are saying, both verbally and non-verbally. People will tell you everything by their language and also by their body language. So even nonverbal communications are important when it comes to building rapport, so that you can then respond thoughtfully to whatever it is that you've been listening to. Positive body language. Maintain eye contact, smile, and use open gestures to convey warmth and openness. Respectful communication. Use polite language. Avoid interrupting people and address others with courtesy. All things that go, like I said, a long way to building rapport. Now, this is one that's been, attacked in our society, but again, I'm going to put it as clear as day. You want to value diversity. Acknowledge and appreciate the differences in backgrounds that people have, the differences in their perspectives and their opinions. There's nothing wrong with being able to see that there are other people with different backgrounds, different perspectives, and different opinions of yours. Doesn't make them right, doesn't make them wrong. But if you can value them, and the diversity of people, then it gives you a lot of room to build rapport. Be inclusive. You want to create an environment where everyone feels welcome and valued, regardless of their background, regardless of their social economic status. Create the environment where everybody feels welcome and valued. Open communication. You want to encourage open dialogue with people and create safe spaces for them for constructive feedback. People will give you a lot of room, if you are being great with them before you try to be straight with them. And what I mean by that is, again, is exactly what this is, right? Encouraging open dialogue means that you create the space for people to say what they need to say. You don't, make it hard for people to be straight with you. But you got to know that they want you to be great with them before they can hear your constructive feedback. Positive reinforcement. Offer praise and recognition for contributions and effort. People in this world live and work for recognition, appreciation, praise, then money. And money is last. Praise and recognition goes a long way with people when it comes to, building rapport. And then be mindful of cultural sensitivity. I said this already, in the previous conversation, is that, folks are different from you. They have differences. They're different backgrounds, different social and economic backgrounds, cultural diversity, you name it. There's a lot of reasons, a lot of different things going on with people. So acknowledge that and be someone who's, present to that. Although folks may have differences that they've grown up with, or they're different cultures, or they came from a different background than you, they're still a human being. They still have the same heart beating inside them, and they still want to be treated with respect, admiration, praise. They want all of those things to be present. So your opportunity is to recognize that diversity and also be present when you're, giving opportunities to build rapport. So what else is there to say? Like I said, you want to adapt your communication style to respect people for who they are and for who they aren't. They're coming from different cultural norms and practices. Be someone who can acknowledge and appreciate them for where they are, who they are, and how they are. Now, how do you implement in different settings, right? How do you implement building, respect and rapport? Well, an example for kids in a classroom, if you're a teacher, you want to use icebreakers to get to know the students, right? You want to incorporate diverse perspectives in lessons, right? And provide individual feedback. It's important that every kid is made to feel special in their environment. If you're in your workplace, well, again, I do this when I host retreats. I organize team building activities for the whole team to get involved in actively listening to their colleagues and address the concerns that colleagues have promptly. And if it's in your community, you know, well, engage with community members. I ran community nonprofits, so I actually, spent time hosting town halls, getting people together in little focus groups and little coffee clutches, you name it, wherever we could pull people together for an opportunity to get to know each other and to build rapport. That was, a very important piece to engaging with community, right? And like I've shared already, you want to acknowledge that there are diverse viewpoints and actively seek to understand people's different perspective. And at home, what can I tell you? Variety is the spice of life, and diversity is about differences. What makes each one of us one of a kind. The United States is home to people originating from all over the world. You, your children, and your family and friends will go to school and work with people of different races, physical capabilities, skill sets, talents, learning styles, and needs. And together, we'll do all of ourselves a great service if we can promote tolerance and celebrate diversity. Now, everyone has different likes and dislikes. Everyone has different thoughts and beliefs, personal qualities, responses, and feelings, and family backgrounds. Everyone is alike in that we all want to feel liked and loved, that we belong. We want to feel that we can enjoy life and be ourselves. And a person of character who respects others is tolerant and accepting of differences. Now, every day we make decisions about people. And sometimes these are based on experiences that we've had that allow us to gather enough information, to make sound decisions. Other times we're prejudging others, without enough information or experience. And we're not born prejudiced. It's not on our birth certificate. We learn to be this way. Stereotypes are never true, but they can fool us into thinking we know someone when we really don't. A respectful person does not go by stereotypes or prejudge people. A person of character takes time to see what is inside, not just outside. Discrimination can hurt everyone involved. It is disrespectful to treat others unfairly. And because of their differences, you treat people unfairly. Why? Even when people pretend that it doesn't bother them to be discriminated against, inside, they usually feel angry, sad, or lonely. And as a result, both parties are losing out of a rewarding experience of friendship when we exclude, tease, or fight with each other because they are different. Now, a person of character will respect differences and be able to experience a multitude of interactions with people. People of character grow and learn from their broad experiences with others. The key to getting along with others and succeeding is to learn about differences while also accepting and enjoying them, not pretending that they don't exist. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Jump In with me, Coach John podcast. And, if you did, please like, subscribe, and share with others. You can find us on all platforms, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen or like to listen to your podcast. including on YouTube. So as I wrap up, thank you for listening. I know today has been an exciting episode where, again, I invited you to learn how to create an environment where respect and rapport is present. So go win the games that you play.